Julie, you have been fantastic at helping us with this sense making on this. So
I'm
I'm
trying.
hoping.
I'm trying, Evo. There's so much. There's so much that was said, and I'll just take a couple minutes just to kind of. I'm going to zoom in here to my screen, taking some notes and pulling out. First we had the conversation with Amy and Maria, Rika, Nico, and Cynthia talking about business use cases, and just pulling out, like what's needed in their world that will help them define interoperability. And I think, and I'll show you another part of my screen in a second, but definitions, which keeps coming up over and over again. I think we need to define, what is the definition of a portal, like I mentioned earlier, and the identity of an avatar. What does that encompass? We just even heard from Tony Parisi, citizens first, but identity is not the MetaMask wallet. So we really need to kind of fine tooth into what the definitions of things are that need to be there. And I thought it was interesting. I think it was Rika that said, being at WMC, that because people have been wearing masks, they're it's really easy for them to get into headsets. I thought that was a really interesting comment that she made. There's a whole bunch of other points here, but being able to define everything and understanding who owns relationships in interoperability is really important to enterprise. So you can see the struggle with businesses in enterprise and how they're trying to grasp a lot of this, how are things going to work, and what the landscape, the new landscape is, who are they selling to? And oh my gosh, their audience has changed. Now they have to change their whole marketing strategy to talk to this new audience. The second conversation we had was the constellation of standards with Robert, Neil, Trevor, and Sophia, and really just talk the behaviors around GLTF. I think that's fascinating. When we start to go into production, and certain assets have to have certain behaviors, and I think that's a conversation in itself. Is how do we define certain GTLF behaviors that relate back to our avatars or relate back to the places that we are in. So there's definitely some communication there. Tony's discussion about the MVM and, kind of resetting Web 2. I think that leads into a whole bunch of other conversations, but certainly, great points to talk about how we can succeed with this collaboration. Speaking of collaboration, that's one thing that, also came about is, the sense of community, the sense of collaboration, the sense of working together at every single level right now to be able to put these new standards and protocols into place. Human first was also a big component, and then coming back to being present in that space and what defines that. So, on behalf of me, thank you so much to all the speakers and everybody who participated today to contribute your thoughts. And from here on, Evo, where do we go from here? Where do you think?
Oh, obviously there are many conversations that are ready to be pulled apart here, and that includes conversations around language, UX, data permissions and data privacy, how identities are managed. Obviously, from the standard side, there were great mentions today of how to participate on extensions to the GLTF spec, but also in things like VRM, so that potentially our avatars can move fluidly with us. Obviously, we have a long way to go. And Tony made some great points about, it's going to take us the decade. We're not going to get there overnight. It's okay to recognize
that was actually one piece in here. It was, I think, on a couple of them, it was, don't rush to make standards. Neil even said that too, because, you can make standards so quickly. So that's another thing we have to keep in check with each other. Are we doing this at the right pace? Is it too early to make a standard? And that's why this collaboration piece is so important.
Absolutely. The collaboration is also happening through all of you in the comments line. And I want to show you something that happened here, right? So Tony at the beginning, really just connecting with his people. And then there was a conversation about WebAssembly and is WebAssembly being used? And so there began to be a breakdown about how WebAssembly is being used. And that included different Web3 resources and ecosystems that are experimenting. So you can go back through the chat, even on YouTube, and see how we build on each other's efforts, right? And if you want to go back and explore these ideas in a future event, we would love to do that work with you. So I just want to go ahead and put up a previous playlist, because this is the fourth in a series of MetaTr conversations. We are moving toward a more participatory framework, and I just want to thank our friends at AWE Live for helping us open and expand this conversation to the broader community. But we want you to go back, watch these videos, and then if you have a demo to share, if you have a talk that you would like to propose, or you see a convergence happening, and that can be around language, UX, data privacies, Web3. All of these topics today are in conversation for the next MetaTr. So everyone, thank you for bringing your greatest thoughts to the table.